Hello, my name is Josiah Stengel. Welcome to today's video. I'm going to be showing you how to install a casement window, and it can be applied to many different window types, but in our case it's a casement window. First thing I have to do is prepare the sill opening. There's several different methods on installing windows, and I did my research and I chose the method that I thought made the most sense, and so I'm going to be showing that to you. So yeah, first I got to clear off the styrofoam insulation. I went ahead and sealed between my double wall system. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put my sill seal down. There are a couple different options. I'm going to be using two separate methods in this entire house. The store I bought these, I only had so many in stock, so at the time when I bought the materials, I bought all of these that they had, and the appropriate sill flashing, self-adhesive waterproof flashing for the sill. So that's what I'm going to be using on these windows. Another method that many people use is just to buy, this is a similar product, but it's flexible. So rather than putting these pieces of flashing in the corners, this will conform around the corners without needing to cut it or tear it. I'm going to be using these. So the flashing just sits right in the corner, and then I fasten it with my hammer stapler. Then do the same thing on the outside. This lip, I'll just bend straight down. Next I use this sill flashing. I've already cut the piece here. It's going to extend up the sides of the sill about 3 inches and cover the bottom of the sill. Now it's not going to sit like this. It needs to extend out in the opening so that the flashing can fold down over the face of the wall, about 3 inches. You have to get this flashing as tight as you can in the corners first. Just fold it up, seal across the bottom. Same thing on the other side. Tighten the corner, fold it up, press it in. Now the flexible flashing at this point would be able to just kind of bend down on the face of the wall, whereas this isn't flexible. So I need to cut it, but it's okay because I have that big sheet of flashing on the outside. So it just folds down and seals, and the same thing on the other side. Folds down and seals. Now I have a nice sealed sill. The idea of a sill flashing sill is so that if water or moisture does make it inside the house, it potentially has the opportunity to run back to the outside of the house instead of coming on the inside and causing water damage. So I use this roller just to make sure my flashing has excellent adhesion. Use it on all the faces that I have. When installing flashing in the window and around the window, it's important to start from the bottom and work your way up. That way, if water hits the building and runs down, it kind of stair steps correctly over all faces of your flexible adhesive flashing, and in my case, my corner pieces of flashing, the plastic ones. So now that that's in place, the sill is ready on the inside. Oh, one more thing. I'd prefer the window not to set exactly sit flush on the flashing here, because I want it to be centered in the opening. So the window opening is a 1/2 inch bigger from side to side and top to bottom. So I'm going to use these shims, and I'm going to start out with shimming the window up at the beginning. That way I can add shims appropriately, and I just put a staple in. That way the shims don't move around when I go on the outside and set the window in. And I shim the window in both corners, because that's where in the window it has steel reinforcement in the window on both side rails, so that's where the shims will go. All right. Now, there is some debate on this next portion, and it's whether or not, or how to cut the Tite around your window opening. I chose this method because it made the most sense to me. The Tite is cut flush along the bottom of the window and flush along the top, and then there's a flap on the sides that's folded in. Now, some people don't think this is necessary because I'm going to spray foam on both sides of the window and jamb extensions, but because the Tite runs up into the soffits, there is a movement of air, so air will get behind the Tite material, and if you're trying to build or install a sealed window, good idea to tape off where the Tyvek wraps inside so that the air that gets behind the Tyvek house wrap doesn't sneak by the insulation and sealing you have around your window and just come right into your house. So that's why I wrap the Tyvek to the inside, or in my case, block it house wrap, and tape it off. All right, so here on the outside you can notice the flashing here. Any water that comes out of the sill will come and run over the face that's flashing and away from the window opening. So, like I mentioned, the house wrap I fold to the inside, along the sides, cut it flush on the top. Now, when I'm going to install the window, I cut my Tyvek at an angle. Same thing on the other side. This enables me to fold it up out of the way. The last window I installed, I forgot to do this step. So I got caulk all over the Tyvek, and it was a hassle. Onto the window. I use window and door caulk. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put a thick bead of caulk up the side, the top, then back down the side of the window. I don't install any caulk on the bottom side of the window. Now you might wonder, well, won't air get in through the bottom of the window? It may, but I will at a later time seal on the inside with caulk so that there is not a transfer of air from outside to inside the house through that bottom. But I leave it uncaulked on the outside face because if moisture does make its way into the sill and wants to make its way out of the house, if it's caulked on the nailing flange, then the moisture won't be able to escape. It'll just sit in there or run to the inside of the house. So that is why I only caulk on the sides, the top of the window. I'm ready to set the window into the opening. Move my fasteners close by. My level. Tape measure. When I set this in the window, it's helpful to have a helper on the inside. I'll set the bottom of the window in the sill first. Remember, the bottom has no caulk on it. And we'll try to center the window in the opening as best we can. That way it's centered. And then I'll tilt the window up into the opening, and hopefully it's close to where it needs to be, so there's a little adjustment and it doesn't eliminate the purpose of the caulk by moving it around too much. Here we go. Try.
Just a little bit that way.
Good?
Yeah.
While my helper is still on the inside, I'll throw a level on the sill and see what we need to do for adjustment. I need to shim under the right corner. That's good. And I'll just have her hold this in place while I measure the window from corner to corner to verify that it is square. So now that it is level on the sides and the bottom and is square, I can fasten the window. Now the window installation instructions, it's always a good idea to read those beforehand. Stated that I'm not supposed to put nails within 6 inches of the corners of the window. So I'm going to follow that directive and fasten otherwise. All right, so the window's been nailed off, so now I get to work on the flashing part of installing this window. If you'd like to see more than just the installation of this window, like the building of this whole house, feel free to subscribe to this YouTube channel, as my wife and I are sharing the process of building this house on our own. My wife is also my assistant. She's running the camera right now and helps with leveling off the window and setting it in the opening. Her name is Becca. So I got it nailed off. The instructions on the window say to place the nails in the center of the nail holes and so I did that also. And then it says use every other nail hole with 2-inch nails. The flashing we're going to be using, self-adhesive and waterproof. It is a butyl adhesive. As I stated before, we're going to work in a bottom to top pattern when installing the flashing. This flashing needs to extend all the way down to the bottom edge of my sill flashing and to the top edge of the flashing above the window. So you get a nice seal on that flashing tape. And do the same thing on the other side of the window. And then finally along the top. Flashing tape needs to extend to the outside edge of both side strips of flashing. Flashing will go underneath the Tite. I'll explain why here in a second. Pull it off. So why I do it this way, because a lot of the debates on installing a window has to do with the flashing and how the house wrap is installed. So by using the top piece of flashing tape to adhere the window to the OSB, any moisture that will get behind the house wrap will come down, and instead of running behind the window into the house, it'll run down the face of that OSB onto this flashing and away from the house. Now, by folding this tie back up, I can now fold it back down on top of my flashing and tape it off at that diagonal cut I made in the corner. This makes it so any water that makes it behind the siding, but not behind the house wrap, runs down the house wrap. Stays on the outside of that flashing, and thus on the outside of the window. So this window is sealed.
Let's see if this window works. I'd say that's a solid yes. Wow. That'll be so nice. Cool. Don't hit your head on that. Careful.
Why would you do that?